So, are you looking to buy an iPhone 13 or an iPhone 15, or are you looking to upgrade your iPhone 13 to the 15? Well, I got a months later video discussion here for you in this one, and you're going to see everything I think about both of these and learn if it's probably worth buying one or the other or doing the upgrade. So, let's begin by talking about their prices. So, the iPhone 15 at Apple stores is still a relatively decent price. It's like around $599. And it goes up from there. Also, if you do want to get a iPhone 15, this is closer to $800, so it's several hundred more. And then the 14, which is pretty much the same as the 13, I'm not a big fan of that one, is a little bit more, but you don't really get much differences. This is the bigger upgrade right here, the iPhone 13 to the iPhone 15. And one of the areas I want to begin by talking about is the body. So months later, how do I feel about the differences in the body? I feel like this is a very just simple refinement polish upgrade. Definitely feels a little bit smoother at the edges, which feels quite nice. And I really like how the glass is infused to the body and it just it's smooth on the edge. This is one of the better iPhones to hold without a case. The iPhone 13 has always felt pretty durable, but the corners of the phone are definitely a little bit sharper. I also appreciate that it has a SIM card. The eSIM can be a little bit annoying if you don't know what you're doing, or if there's a super long line in the carrier store that you're at and some of the employees are getting that set up. That could take a while. So eSIM can be a headache for some people, which is what the iPhone 15 is. It is a eSIM only phone. However, once you get it set up, you can get on your happy way and enjoy this phone. You also notice that the iPhone 15 doesn't have any action button. It's the same thing as the iPhone 13 with the silent switch. So for those of you who kind of like to keep your workflow and your life pretty simple and you don't want to change things up much, you just want to get a new phone and be on your merry way, the change over here from the 13 to the 15 is going to be a perfect change for you, because you will add the dynamic island, which would bring some very nice features, including the ability to see, your Ubers and your Lyft rides and your music up here, notifications, calls, stuff like that. It definitely, the overall phone kind of just feels like a polished version of the 13 you already had. Now, if you're looking to buy one of these two, right now, keep in mind that the 13 kind of feels last generation. It still has a little bit thicker bezels, definitely a thicker notch. However, some people find the dynamic island much more distracting as it is separated from the bezels up there. So it kind of just sticks out in your face. But overall, I quite like the features. I kind of got used to them. However, I still think all screen iPhone is the dream. Like nothing interrupting the display is the dream iPhone for me. So some people will find the 13's notch to kind of just blend into the background. You don't see it much. But buying one of these in terms of the body and build now, both IP68 dust and water resistance. The Apple logo is very shiny on the iPhone 13. It's kind of a little bit hidden there on the iPhone 15, especially on this green model. The matte black is probably a little bit obvious, but the colors are definitely toned down for the iPhone 15, something you will notice for sure. With the iPhone 13, they're a little bit more vibrant. However, the pink I always thought was a little bit like off whitish pink. It was never like a true deep or rich pink, so take it for what it is. But for me, this was always a lighter pink, and some of the other colors of the iPhone 13 were also pretty decent, but they didn't really punch out like something like an iPhone 10R, for example. I'm really looking forward to a more vibrant looking standard iPhone that just really stands out like the 10R colors did. You're also going to notice that the volume rockers are in the same locations, but also the 5G antenna is bigger. Also, the power buttons are the same size. The cameras are bigger on the iPhone 15 for sure, much bigger actually, and they're a diagonal format. These kind of switched, how they feel. So the iPhone 13 had a glass on the back right here. Well, this is also glass, but it's a color infused glass, but it's like a matte texture. It doesn't pick up fingerprints, anything like that. Whereas the inside is more glossy on the iPhone 15. The inside of here is more like this. So they kind of switched their materials there. But you could see the camera's definitely a little bit larger. They do stick off the body a little bit more. That's going to be a noticeable change for you. But you'll see some of the antenna lines are in the same location. At the bottom, you'll see it has the same amount of speaker holes, torque screws in the same locations, and the USB-C is a bigger looking port, and you're going to be changing from Lightning to USB-C if you come here, which for me has been great because I use a bunch of USB-C products. But for those of you really having a ton of Lightning ports or Lightning accessories, this might be annoying at first, but you will adapt. At the same time, you know, if you bought a lot of like Lightning accessories, a lot of those things might need to be replaced, or you'll have to use adapters to make that compatible. For me, I really like the upgrade to USB-C. Other than that, like I say, these phones, they just kind of feel like almost the same, just a nice polished refinement, a little bit more curvy on the 15, lending to an ergonomically more pleasing hold in the hand, and slightly lighter than the iPhone 13. So for some, that will feel slightly less durable. But overall, I feel like they're both pretty darn durable devices here. When looking at the display panel, on the iPhone 13, you are looking at a Super Retina XDR OLED HDR10 Plus display. That is also the exact same display technology on the iPhone 15. However, there is a big change, and that's that the iPhone 15 not only has a slightly 1 pixels per inch sharper screen, that's really nothing to mention, it does go up 200 nits on usable brightness. Also outdoors, it has a capability of 800 nits higher brightness. That is a massive change, especially outdoors in sunlight. That's where you'll really notice it, but also even indoors, as you crank it up, it does get a little bit brighter. The 15 is also a little bit better at not auto dimming itself. The 13, if it gets too warm or you have it too bright for too long, it tends to auto dim itself a lot. Not a big fan of that. But with the reduced bezels, the increased brightness, the same pixels per inch as the Pro model, the iPhone 15 is a better display for me. Honestly, I do really appreciate it. It's just a little bit better display. It's not enough to like warrant an upgrade, I feel like, if you're super satisfied with your 13. But if you're deciding between both of these, I would say just go to the 15. You're getting the dynamic island, you're getting the much improved brightness, slightly sharper resolution, and reduced bezels. So it's just overall worth it. 60 hertz though is something that is definitely the biggest topic between these two. They stay at 60 hertz here. We don't go to 120, but it's looking like the iPhone 16 is also not going to 120, and it looks like we're going to have to wait for the 17s to get the 120. So the promotion is a little bit ways away. So I wouldn't wait on that if you're just like, I need a phone now. Just pick up the 15, or if you really, really want to pay that extra, go to the 15 Pro. That'll give you your 120 right now and a better camera. But I think this is a solid upgrade for the display. Nothing huge, but keeps it really good. Like the 13 already had a really good display, but it's better enough to make it worth the upgrade. Okay, so for the software, we're looking at 0 changes, which is really good for those of you upgrading and want to keep things simple. Main change though, if there is any, is in the camera. You have the ability to crop in. So they added a 2x, it goes 10 times zoom. Also, if you go into the settings in the camera department, there will be a couple of more settings down here. We'll go over to camera. There'll be a few format changes, the ability to capture at 24 megapixels. So you do have quite a few little photographic styles. We had that before. Some of them will be found in camera, but the dynamic island software, depending on the applications, will be different. Also, when you bring it down, you can see dynamic island comes down with that right there. But there's not a huge deal of difference besides that. Generally scrolling through, iPhone 13 can still run basically everything in Apple's App Store. You also can do basically a lot of similar camera features, including cinematic mode, but at the same time, the iPhone 13 doesn't have the action mode. So if you want to do action video, you'll have to go to the iPhone 15. One of the things I really like about the 15's camera though is that it's more of a 48 megapixel style. So it's definitely more like a iPhone 14 Pro, just definitely a more premium camera experience on the 15. But software wise, go with the 15 if you want longer software support. This one's already going to be 3 years. So the iPhone 13 probably has 2 years left of software support. This one has like 5. So this is definitely the better option here for software longevity. So camera performance is just better on the iPhone 15. And how is it better? Okay, so what it does is it has better HDR. It has better processing after you take the photo. It also has better zoom. It has, the ability to crop in. And the 13 is a really solid photo, but it's not as tack sharp as the iPhone 15. The iPhone 15 is just a better camera overall. But this ability to go 10 times zoom, even if it's digital and good lighting, is pretty useful. We're getting a little bit out of focus there, but the ability to go 10 times zoom is very useful on this phone. This was always a pathetic 5X, which I'm not a fan of on the iPhone 13. While smooth was enough for some people, I understand as you go 10 times, it's not going to be crazy good quality. I still don't like the 5 times on the 13. Video quality is not a massive difference between both of them, but still you have the action video enhancements right there to the iPhone 15. So that's a huge upgrade for the 15. And overall, the video with its improved HDR processing and improved post-processing on this phone and faster chip, overall, the result still turns out a little sharper on the iPhone 15. So it's a little bit of an upgrade, and it's enough of an upgrade to make this, I think, worthy of an update over the 13 versus something like the 14. The 14 was like almost the same exact phone. And then on the front-facing cameras, those haven't really changed much. Apple really needs to upgrade the front-facing cameras on these phones. They basically have the same type of camera. You can go ahead and change the f-stops there, but basically pretty similar on the front. Not a massive change. Of course, you will see that little dot in the dynamic island up there, but you'll see it up there on the 13, but that's not really much to speak about. I just gotta say, the camera has been a decent upgrade. The biggest one I like about the 15 is the zoom. I think it just makes it more like an iPhone's of the past that had 10 times and 2x. It's just a really better camera experience for a more versatile setup for most people without having to go pro, because I think 10 times zoom and the 2x is enough. Compared to 5, which is just not enough even for regular consumers. I feel like 10 is definitely a good sweet spot. All right, so in terms of the battery health and capacity, I find these phones to just really last about the same. They last a decent full day with use. You're not going to really be looking for a charger throughout your workday or whatever. Even maybe towards the end of the night, you'll need to recharge for the next day. But these are generally a one-day phone. They're not going to push it beyond that. They're not going max level. They're nothing like that. These are solid all-day smartphones for medium casual use. Heavier use, though, will see a pretty big drop-off in the battery. Like when you're doing a lot of videography and camera, or you're running this on a car window, GPS, no charging on. I don't know why you wouldn't have the charger on, but if you're running it like that, or on a bicycle or something, you will see a heavier battery drop-off, of course. Under the gaming load, and when you're doing a software update, something heavier, you will see a battery drop off. But generally speaking, general iOS use throughout the day, they're one-day phones. I always have to charge at night, though, with both of them. I didn't see a big gap in battery life here because the actual size differences are very small. To confirm the actual size differences between them, you're just looking at like a 3300 something over here. Actually, it's a 3200. 40 milliamp hour battery on the 13, and then you only go to 3349 on the 15. So it's not even a massive change at all in the size. When it comes to the area of audio performance, the iPhone 15 actually got a little bit louder. We're looking at a decibel. Okay, I made that a little bit more dramatic than it had to be. It's a little bit louder. It's about 1 decibel overall. Pretty good though in that respect. I'm happy that it's even at all louder. Under my testing, though, I found it to be a pretty small amount. Now, when it comes to the area of phone call quality, let's go ahead and go here. The iPhone 15 has been really good here. Once you get your eSIM set up, everything is gravy. It's really good here on the iPhone 13 as well. 5G performance solid on both. There is a small difference in connectivity. You do have Bluetooth 5.3 on the iPhone. This is the iPhone 15, Bluetooth 5.3. So connectivity when it comes to that is a little bit faster versus Bluetooth 5.0 on the iPhone 13. So a little bit of difference. You can see how that shiny Apple logo gets a little smudgy But they both have Wi-Fi 6, no Wi-Fi 7 here, so there's no major upgrade there to the 15. But yeah, I would say connectivity wise, the iPhone 15 is pretty similar, with a little bit faster Bluetooth. Phone call quality solid on both. But let me know if you've been having any eSIM issues with any of these 15 models down below in the comments. So wrapping it up here, after all these months later, how do I feel about the change to the 15 from a 13? And I like the smoother design. I do. I like the better camera setup. I feel like it's a much better camera than ever before for the base model. I like the dynamic island comes to this phone. It makes it feel more pro than like ever before. I like the reduction in bezels. It's just a smoother overall polished feel. If you love the 13, you thought this was a great phone, this is still a good pickup if you're on a budget in that price range. But I think that this is like a iPhone 13 refined. That's how I feel about the iPhone 15. So it's a great phone just like the 13. But a lot of people tend to overlook a lot of its pros just because it didn't get 120 hertz, especially tech enthusiasts. But overall, the 15 is an excellent standard base iPhone. I'm looking forward to some more upgrades going forward. Maybe the 120 hertz eventually. Maybe improved battery on the next model, a slightly bigger screen is what we're seeing maybe for the iPhone 16. So stay tuned. But let me know if this video helped you out, or if you have any other questions, comment them down below. There's a lot of people in this community that will help you, and I'll try to respond to as many comments as possible. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.